Hello dear students, welcome to Bajirao Ias Academy interview guidance program. So in today's lecture we are going to discuss about Rajya Sabha elections. Now why this issue of Rajya Sabha elections is in news. Now before understanding this, we need to talk about Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha is part of parliament along with Lok Sabha and the President of India. So it is considered as the upper house. Okay, so Rajya Sabha is considered as upper house, or it is also considered as the representative of states in the parliament. So therefore, why Rajya Sabha elections is in news? Because recently different states have been part of the Rajya Sabha elections, and they are electing the candidates for the Rajya Sabha. However, the issue of cross voting has been reported in this Rajya Sabha elections by the different MLAs in these states. Now what does cross voting exactly means? So cross voting essentially means that imagine an MLA, member of Legislative Assembly, so who is belong to a particular party called A, right? So however, in that particular state, X state is called as imagine a state called X, and a candidate MLA belong to party A, and when it comes to the Rajya Sabha elections, instead of voting as per the directive of party A, he has been giving his vote to party B. So this is considered as cross voting in the Rajya Sabha elections. So therefore this is led to the violation of the whip by the member of Legislative Assembly. So therefore in this context, because of the cross voting, the issue of Rajya Sabha elections had been in news. Now in this specific lecture we will discuss few aspects such as how our Rajya Sabha elections are held and what are the issues with the Rajya Sabha elections and what lies ahead. We will discuss everything in a very detailed manner. So first, when we talk about the Rajya Sabha, right, so Rajya Sabha is the upper house and Lok Sabha is considered as the lower house. Now if you look at the Parliament of India, we have the parliamentary form of government. We all know about that. In the parliamentary form of government, we have the bicameral structure. So bicameral structure essentially means that there's a upper house, that is Rajya Sabha, and there's a lower house, Lok Sabha. Okay, so it consists of three parts. Okay, the Parliament of India consists of three parts. The first part of the parliament is president, right? So president is also part of the parliament, and Council of States and House of People. Now this Council of States is also called as Rajya Sabha, and House of People is considered as Lok Sabha. Right, I hope you clear about this, the structure of the parliament in India. And then Rajya Sabha is the upper house. Okay, so this is Council of States, because as I have already told you that it represents the states in the parliament. So therefore it is considered as the Council of States, and Rajya Sabha is also considered as upper house. So it represents the states as well as union territories of the Indian Union. Right, so this is the Rajya Sabha definition and Article 80 of the Indian Constitution. So there are different articles, different provisions in the Indian Constitution, and Article 80 of the Indian Constitution, it deals with the composition of Rajya Sabha and how the Rajya Sabha members are being elected, and what is the composition, and which state from which state has got more representation or the lesser representation. Everything would be dealt under Article 80 of the Indian Constitution. So it deals with the composition of Rajya Sabha, and maximum strength of the Rajya Sabha is 250 members, right? So total members elected to the Rajya Sabha is 250. So current strength of the Rajya Sabha is 245 only. So this is the maximum strength of Rajya Sabha, but the current strength of Rajya Sabha is 245 members alone. So therefore it has been representing both states and union territories as well. So out of these 245 members, not all the members are elected members, but 12 members are nominated by the president. Okay, so 12 members to the Rajya Sabha are directly nominated by the president from different fields. So the fields include art, literature, sports and science. So if you exclude 12 out of this 245 members, only this 235 and 233 members would be elected from both the states and the union territories to the Rajya Sabha. Okay, so apart from this, if you look at the union territory representation, so out of 8 union territories, Delhi, and Puducherry, Jammu and Kashmir have representation to the Rajya Sabha. So in fact, the other union territories such as Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Daman Diu, so they do not have the representation of Rajya Sabha, but out of 8 union territories, only Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir have representation in the Rajya Sabha. So very clear about this. And after that, Rajya Sabha is considered as a permanent house. Okay, Rajya Sabha is considered as permanent house. Now permanent house in the sense that it is not subjected to dissolution like Lok Sabha. So in Lok Sabha, what happens? Every 5 years elections takes place. So after every 5 years, Lok Sabha would be dissolved. Lok Sabha would be dissolved, and after dissolution of the Lok Sabha, elections would be held, and new government will be formed, and the new Lok Sabha tenure will also start with the election of new government. So it is not just subjected to the elections, or in case of any no confidence motion. In case of any no confidence motion that is being introduced against the government and no party has got the clear majority, then also the Lok Sabha would be dissolved. Lok Sabha would be dissolved and elections to the Lok Sabha would be held. So on the other hand, Rajya Sabha is considered as a permanent house. It is not subjected to dissolution. So however, the members of Rajya Sabha elected for the term of 6 years. I hope you know about this. So the members are elected for the 6 years term, and every 2 years, 1/3 of the Rajya Sabha members are being retired. Okay, so the term would be over every 2 years. 1/3 of the members would retire from the Rajya Sabha. Okay, so because of this reason, it is considered as a permanent house. So elections for all the seats in Rajya Sabha will not be held. Okay, rather a very few number of seats. For example, as I have already told you, every 2 years at least 1/3 of the members would resign would retire from the membership of Rajya Sabha. So therefore there would be a vacancy, and elections would be held for this 1/3 of the vacancy that was created in the Rajya Sabha every 2 years. So because of this reason, it is considered as a permanent house. So a continuing chamber, and it is not subjected to any dissolution. So dissolution in the sense that that we see in the case of Lok Sabha. Now if you look at the tenure of the Rajya Sabha members, as I have already told you that each member of Rajya Sabha serves a 6-year term with 1/3 of the members retiring every 2 years. So this will ensure the continuity in the working of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so because 1/3 of the members have been retiring every 2 years, so this has resulted in the continuity of this particular house. So that is the upper house. So an Indian Constitution 4th schedule also talks about, okay, so this is 4th schedule, and Indian Constitution 4th schedule also talks about the allocation of seats in Council of States to different states in the Rajya Sabha. See, please understand, the 4th schedule was directly asked by UPSC in the prelims examination earlier. So 4th schedule deals with which of the following? Not just 4th schedule, in fact UPSC asked about the 5th schedule, 6th schedule, and even the 10th schedule also. So therefore all these schedules are very important. So go through the schedules after this lecture. So what are the schedules which talks about? So as part of an assignment, what does 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution talks about? So please write that in the comment section. 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution deals with which of the following? Okay, so this is the assignment. Now how are the Rajya Sabha elections are being held? So this is also important, that we need to understand how Rajya Sabha elections are held. For example, Lok Sabha elections are held based on the direct election. Okay, so based on the direct election, you elect the representatives for the Lok Sabha constituencies. In a similar sense, how Rajya Sabha elections are being held, this is a very important that we need to understand. The elections to Rajya Sabha are governed by Article 80 of the Indian Constitution. So please remember this. Article 80 of the Indian Constitution talks about the elections to the Rajya Sabha. So the members of Rajya Sabha elected indirectly by the elected members of Legislative Assembly of the each state and respective union territory. So this is in the sense that I will make it very clear. For example, imagine the state of UP. Okay, so UP has a state legislative assembly, right? So in this state legislative assembly, the members are member of legislative assembly, right? They are directly elected by the people. Directly elected by the people. So based on the number of MLAs in that particular state, so UP has a specific quota of Rajya Sabha members. UP has a specific quota of Rajya Sabha members. So therefore, all the MLAs in the UP State Legislative Assembly would take part in the Rajya Sabha elections. Okay, so would take part in the Rajya Sabha elections and elect the members to the Rajya Sabha. So this is how the election of Rajya Sabha actually helps. So because of this reason, it is called as indirect election. So what is indirect election? Now when I say indirect election, you will not directly elect the members of Rajya Sabha. Rather, first you elect the MLAs, and then in turn MLAs elect the Rajya Sabha members, and this is considered as the indirect election in the Indian political system. So in a similar sense, Prime Minister is indirectly elected as the Prime Minister. Okay, so leader of a political party, and then President is also indirectly elected, Vice President is also indirectly elected by the elected members. So this is the machinery of the procedure of indirect election, and through which the Rajya Sabha members are being elected. So after that, there is a proportional representation system. So if you look at state legislative assembly elections and even the Lok Sabha general elections, so it is considered as first past the post system. Okay, first past the post system. So whoever gets the majority, more than one single vote, would be declared as elected. So this is considered as the first past the post system, and indirect elections we generally follow the first past the post system. However, with respect to Rajya Sabha elections and election of the president, election of the vice president, we follow the system of proportional representation by the system of single transferable vote. Okay, so in this system, in this specific system, each MLA's vote is counted only once. Okay, a single transferable vote, with members casting their votes in order of preference. So in this proportional representation, generally what happens, so this is the system which give appropriate representation to every political party. So appropriate representation to every political party based on their vote share. So therefore, in this particular system, every member who is electing the Rajya Sabha members would give the preference would give the choice of the candidates by one particular order. So based on that, Rajya Sabha members are generally elected. The preference voting, so MLAs usually submit a list of candidates, for example A, B, C, D. So MLAs would generally submit a list of candidates based on the preferences. So they give preferences to different candidates, and the first preference would carry the most weight. So imagine an MLA who had the list of candidates A, B, C, D, and he preferred candidate A at first. So therefore, even though he had given preference for 4 candidates A, B, C, D, but most weight would be carried to A, because the first preference would be given to A. So in case if he given most preference to B at first place, then B would be given more weight in this proportional representation system. So after that, there is a quota requirement also that is mandated in the proportional representation system. So this essentially means that a candidate must secure a certain number of votes. So that is considered as quota to be declared elected. In proportional representation system, every candidate must secure at least a certain quota of vote share. Only then he would be declared as elected. So this is different from the first past the post election system. There is no need for candidate to get the required quota in case of Lok Sabha elections or state legislative assembly elections. So however, with respect to the proportional representation system, it is required that candidates must secure a quota of votes to get declared as elected. Now in this Rajya Sabha elections, there is also an elimination process, because as I have already told you that earlier a candidate had given a choice between A, B, C, D. So now only one candidate would stands elected and rest of them would be eliminated. So if no candidate reaches the quota, because every candidate must secure a quota of votes to get elected. If those candidates who are at the bottom rung, if they don't get the required majority, so the candidate with the fewest votes or less number of votes would be eliminated first. So in every round, what happens, the votes would be the candidates would be eliminated. So their votes, the candidates vote, would be redistributed based on the subsequent preferences. So based on the preferences, the votes of the eliminated candidates would be redistributed among the candidates who are already in the contest. So there would be by-elections also in the case of members' death. For example, imagine Rajya Sabha members died. Okay, so that results in vacancy of the Rajya Sabha membership. So not just because of death, but because of disqualification and resignation also, there would be a vacancy that is created in the Rajya Sabha. So for that particular vacancy, by-elections are held to fill that particular seat. Okay, so this is how Rajya Sabha elections are usually held. So what are the issues with the Rajya Sabha elections? So Rajya Sabha elections are also facing a lot of issues. Now, what are those issues? First and foremost, we need to talk about the cross voting. Earlier part of this lecture, I have told you that what is a cross voting. Now, cross voting essentially means, imagine there's a candidate, there's an MLA from party A, and there's also a party B. Okay, so he is an MLA, he belonged to party A, and there is another political party called B. So in this case, political party A had given whip to this particular MLA that he must vote a candidate X, right? So in this case, he defied the whip. Okay, so he defied the whip of political party A that says that he must vote candidate X. So rather, he voted for a candidate nominated by the party B. Okay, you are getting it. So rather, he voted for a party nominated by party B, voted for a candidate nominated by party B. So this is considered as cross voting. So generally, cross voting occurs when members vote for a candidate from a party different from the one which they belong, so which questions the total integrity of the election process. Okay, so generally, this MLA, this particular MLA had not voted the candidate of political party A to which he belonged to. Rather, he voted for a different political party. So various factors comes into picture here. For example, corruption comes into picture, and personal benefits. For example, imagine that party B is in power. Party B is the ruling party of particular state. Party B may have offered a ministry for a candidate from political party A. So all these reasons have been questioning the total integrity of the election process of the Rajya Sabha. So there's a cross voting. The issue of cross voting has also been plaguing the Rajya Sabha elections. So after that, in Rajya Sabha, there's a system of open ballot system. Now, open ballot system in the sense that, this is to prevent the cross voting. So when I say open ballot system, for example, this is a ballot, and party A, political party A, had given the whip to candidate that he must vote candidate X. Okay, so open ballot system ensures that this particular MLA first votes the candidate X. Okay, so candidate X, and then this ballot paper must be shown to an agent of a political party A. Before actually cast his voting, candidate from political party A must show his ballot paper to the agent being nominated by political party A. So that is considered as open ballot system. Okay, so this open ballot system essentially prevent the cross voting. So there may not be chances of cross voting, because I have already explained the cross voting, that an MLA from party B defying the whip of party A and electing a candidate or casting a vote to party B. So however, the open ballot system, where the MLA must show his ballot paper to political party A before casting his vote, would prevent the cross voting. in the Rajya Sabha elections, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the Rajya Sabha election process. However, an amendment to the Representation of People Act 1951 was made in the year 2003, so that has introduced the open ballot system for the Rajya Sabha elections. Okay, so it had introduced the open ballot system, and this open ballot system would prevent the cross voting in the Rajya Sabha elections. So apart from that, the members in the open ballot system, the members are required to show their ballot paper to the authorized agent of the political party. Okay, so it ensures that the vote would be disqualified. For example, if he cross votes MLA of a political party, so would chosen a candidate other than the party nominated candidate, or voted a candidate other than the party nominated candidate. So what happens with the open ballot system? So his vote would be disqualified. So these are the strict provisions with respect to the open ballot system. So in fact, there are certain independent MLAs also in our electoral system. So independent MLAs are those MLAs who are not required. So they are not required to show the ballot papers to anyone, whether the political party, whether the whip of a particular political party, or the presiding officer. So independent MLAs are barred from showing the ballot papers to anyone. So they can vote anyone of their choice. Now, who are the independent MLAs? Independent MLAs are not elected on any party symbol. So they are not elected on any party symbol. So they have contested on their own, and they have also elected on their own. So apart from that, so it is the outside the purview of anti-defection law. Rajya Sabha elections is outside the purview of the anti-defection law. Now, anti-defection law was introduced in the year 1985, and it is also included as part of the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution, right? This Rajya Sabha elections. So therefore, the 10th schedule of the Constitution that was introduced in the year 1985 contains anti-defection law. So this was introduced by 52nd constitutional amendment, right? So the anti-defection was brought in by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. So this 52nd amendment contains anti-defection law provisions. However, this anti-defection law provisions are not applicable with respect to the Rajya Sabha elections, right? So this is another major issue with respect to the Rajya Sabha elections. So what was the Election Commission stand with respect to Rajya Sabha elections? So Election Commission stand was that earlier there were Supreme Court judgments, Supreme Court pronouncements with respect to the Rajya Sabha elections, and it said that the provisions of the 10th schedule with respect to voting against instruction of any party will not be applicable for the Rajya Sabha elections. Okay, so this was the Election Commission stand. Election Commission stand was the provisions of the 10th schedule will not be applicable for the Rajya Sabha elections. And after that, it also specified that political parties cannot issue any whip to its members for such elections as well. Political parties cannot issue whip. Political parties cannot use the provisions of the 10th schedule. Now, there are different provisions which are included in the 10th schedule, and that amounts to the disqualification of a candidate if he defect from one political party based on symbol. He is elected to another political party. So the decision of disqualification is taken by the Speaker of Lok Sabha in case of a Lok Sabha, and Speaker of State Legislative Assembly in case of an assembly, right? Now, in this context, there were different judgments of the Supreme Court with respect to the Rajya Sabha elections. However, one such important judgment was Kuldeep Nair versus Union of India judgment 2006. So in this judgment, the Supreme Court has in fact upheld the system of open ballot for the Rajya Sabha elections. Now, what is the open ballot system? As I have already told you in the earlier part of this lecture, that let's revise it again. There's an MLA. Okay, so ultimately MLAs would elect the Rajya Sabha members, and MLA belonged to party A. Okay, so he belonged to party A. So therefore, in this context, the party A ordered this particular MLA to cast his vote to candidate X. So defying the whip of party A, he voted a candidate Y nominated by party B. Okay. So therefore, in this context, open ballot system ensures that before casting his vote to any candidate, the MLA must show his ballot paper to the authorized agent of political party A. For example, if he votes candidate Y instead of candidate X, then his vote would be disqualified. Okay, so as his vote would be disqualified. Rather, whip would not work here, anti-defection law would not work here. Rather, his vote would be disqualified as per the Representation of People Act 2013. So this was the open ballot system that was introduced in the Rajya Sabha elections. Okay, so the court is of the view that, so upholding open ballot system, the Supreme Court is of the view that secrecy in voting become a source of corruption. For example, if there is no open ballot system, so that is upholding the secrecy in the election. So secrecy in voting, especially with respect to the Rajya Sabha elections, would promote corruption, and transparency had the potential to eliminate it. So if there is a transparency in the sense that if this particular MLA shows his ballot paper to the political party A before casting his vote, so that is transparent voting. Now transparency would eliminate the chances of corruption in the Rajya Sabha elections, and this is what the Supreme Court has said. And apart from that, the court also clarified that an elected MLA of a political party would not face disqualification under the 10th schedule, or he would not come under the provisions of 10th schedule, and this is what the court had said in Kuldeep Nair versus Union of India case in 2006. Okay, so even if he voted against the party's candidate, even if he voted against the party's whip in Rajya Sabha elections, he would not be disqualified under the 10th schedule, and this is what the Supreme Court has said. Instead, the vote would be disqualified, not the candidate, rather his vote would be disqualified if he voted against the wishes of a political party he belonged to. So this is what the Supreme Court's view with respect to the Rajya Sabha elections. Now in this case, what lies ahead? What should be the way forward in Rajya Sabha elections? So there is a need to bring amendments and strengthen the constitution. Okay, we need to bring new amendments and strengthen the constitution against such voting practices, because since ruling parties have been benefiting from the cross voting, so therefore we must prevent the cross voting in the Rajya Sabha elections, because the ruling parties can easily woo the MLAs, okay, by better offerings. So therefore we must prevent the cross voting, and for this purpose we must amend the constitution and we must strengthen the constitution. We should also amend the Representation of People Act of 1951 to prevent the cross voting. And secondly, what the other step would be, in this sense, Supreme Court can take up it as a suo motu public interest litigation, because cross voting poses a threat to the democracy. So therefore, in this context, Supreme Court can intervene. Supreme Court can also use Article 142 of the Indian Constitution to do a greater justice or complete justice. Article 142 talks about the complete justice. Okay, so that is being used in recent Chandigarh polls. Okay, so therefore the Supreme Court can intervene in this to prevent such cross voting, because it threatens democracy, and there's a need to bring amendments in the constitution, further strengthening the constitution, and also bringing new amendments in the Representation of People Act, so that could prevent the cross voting and that could further strengthen the democratic structure and the democratic ethos in our country. So therefore, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha are very important institutions for a better parliamentary functioning and perfect democracy, a functional democracy. So therefore, in this context, these institutions must not be weakened. So these institutions further strengthened in the spirit of democracy. Okay, so that's it in this lecture, and thank you.